And so there will be obviously some people who may not want to speak at first. People need to feel safe, and we're going to create an atmosphere in those circles so that people can feel safe. For example, there'll be no interruptions, there'll be no crosstalk. And then in the second round, each of us should have a little more than 5 minutes, because in the first round some will not have spoken and some will not have spoken for up to 5 minutes. At the end of that second hour, we'll do an evaluation, because we really want to do this well. And we are not there again for problem solving or tackling issues or taking stands or getting things done. We are there to be seen, to be heard, and to be known, finally. The second part of of community, as I see it, is about play. It's about movie nights and dances and beach parties and house parties and game nights and picnics and paintball and whatever it is we want to do, sharing food and drink. These social activities are intended to provide a pleasurable escape and a safe place, kind of a refuge for us to look forward to simply go to relax and unload stress, to get away from the worry and the stress and the fear out there in the world, and come to a place you can count on that's ongoing, to again just relax, so and have fun. So that is what I'm suggesting as part 2 of a 3-part community design. And then finally, at some point, we might want to consider creating extended families. Smaller units of fellowship, 6 to 8 people, ranging from infants to grandparents, sharing meals, joys, concerns, and offering mutual assistance. Just to know that between activities, between meetings, we can pick up a phone and we can talk to a member of our extended family to further diminish that sense that we have of separation. And so, again, our non-political community plan of storytelling, of social activities, and extended families would be done in tandem with our political work, so that we progressives are addressing both the material and the meaning side of life. And I just think in general, if we to succeed as a movement, we have to build both political relationships and personal relationships. We need stronger friendships and lasting ties so that we can better take care of each other as we're going through all of this. And that is what Bernie is encouraging. And I'm with him, because I'm always with him.
Does he specifically encourage small groups as well? Do you know? Or?
No, he is talking very generically about building community.
I think it's great. No, I agree with you utterly. You know, we were talking before this started about Sebastian Junger in his book Tribes, when he was a soldier in Iraq and Afghanistan. As a member of a military force, he felt he was one of the group. But coming back to the United States, he felt apart and lonely because the social supports just weren't here that were there for him. And he felt actually better about himself when he was in combat. I mean, and doing it just because you reach out to people, you're part of a team, rather than loneliness and so on. So you're familiar now with statistics showing that incredible deaths now from opioid overdose, over drinking, and so on too. You know, it is a crime of loneliness, and people don't have jobs, they don't have a future to look to.
That's right.
And it's a mean, cruel world out there for so many people. We have so many more people in prison than we do in in college and so on too.
And we don't have to. This is totally unnecessary.
Absolutely,
completely unnecessary. I mean, all of us, we long for that connection. We long to feel we belong. We long to feel that we matter and that we feel significant. But to feel that way, we have to become known to others. And I want to create the atmosphere within which we can do that, where we can sit down and we can have these conversations that go under the surface, so that we can get to know each other in a more personal way. And all of that is doable. It's not rocket science. You have, again, 10 people sitting down and just sharing a little bit about their lives, beyond their opinions, beyond their opinion on Iraq or beyond their occupation, but just talking more personally, so people can really feel appreciated once they feel known.
One of the people we've had on the show here, James Robertson, and he says No, it might have been Moses Roth. Anyway, but one of both terrific people said they have to know that you care before they care what you know. I mean, you have to have a shared experience before they care, you know, they care about you. So sharing experience is really important. I mean, it's necessary.
It's a foundation of trust.
Yeah.
And I think the latest stat I saw on trust was about 1/3 of us trust one another. I mean, what kind of a community can you really have when so little trust is apparent? I mean,
can I tell you a funny story? I don't know, funny. Trump was telling one of his kids, okay, never trust anyone. So the kid said, okay. So then Trump said, do you trust me? The kid said, yeah, I do. And Trump says, yeah, don't trust me. Don't trust anyone. And do you trust me? And the kid kept saying, yeah, I trust you. But the dad wanted him not to trust anyone, right? The old... well, supposedly one of the great financial people of all time sort of said, don't trust anyone, and had his kid jump down from the balcony and then moved out of the way, out of the stairs, and I mean, just to teach him this lesson of life. But we all depend on each other, right? We depend on each other for water, for roads, for health, for, you know, right. The idea that you're a lone wolf and you're going to survive, you're on a different planet. I mean, right. You're just, that's not the way human life works.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
There is clearly, you know, some researchers, social scientists refer to this time as the age of loneliness. There is clearly an epidemic of loneliness in this country, and again, as we said, absolutely unnecessary when all of us want, and we are wired to be connected to one another. And so let's just create the opportunity for that to happen, because when you affiliate with a group, there's a difference between affiliation and intimacy. Affiliation, you show up, you talk about an issue, that's what you're there, but you're really not there to be with each other. And, you know, and so that intimacy part is very, very important, and we can create that. We know how. It's just a question of will. Nothing I'm saying here that people out there don't know. Nothing. But we just need to do it. You know? It's so easy to just turn on the television set or go on Facebook and so on, and just, you know, you have your mind taken over by someone else's thoughts, trying to sell you things. And as you say, you know, the commercialism is taking over, the consumerism, but our focus on possessions. And so, I'm a psychologist, and I tell folks a lot that the older we get, I mean, it's more important as you get older to focus on relationships and not possessions, not who has what, but and good times, you know, family times with, you know, just good times, something you can remember. The ending of the story should be good. My poor sister passed away recently, but I was glad I was there just shortly before she died. But yeah, I mean, those are kind of the times that really matter, not whether or not I have another, I don't know, limousine or another, you know, house on the coast or something like that. Especially if you can look around and see how many people are so poor off as compared to you. I don't see how these people sleep. I mean, you know, the top 0.01% are the Koch brothers who are trying to get through the tax benefits for them. You know, killing the ACA so they can get more money. I mean, I just find that appalling. I know. You know, and the pursuit for the material, and we pursue the material because we try to fill up that emptiness. The great-granddaughter of Henry Ford wrote a book called The Golden Ghetto, and in it, you know, she compared statistics with respect to divorce and addictions and suicide. Every bit as high with the wealthy as it is with us. You know, they may be a little more comfortable as they go through that. Right. But there's very little relationship between making money above once you get above the poverty level, making much more beyond that does not contribute to happiness. So we have to look for the things that matter. And what matters is you and Sherry and Marv and each other. Right, and trusting each other too, relying on each other. And trusting. There's a, are you familiar with the statistics that show that, you know, sort of the richer you are, the less empathy you have, as compared to, and for a lot of people, at any rate, it makes sense because, you know, if we're neighbors, then I can feed your cat, you can, you know, pick up my newspaper, you know, we kind of rely on each other because we have to, but that's a good way to do it. But if you have $1 billion, you don't have to rely on anyone. Right. You know, like Trump, it's you give orders and they do it, and that's the way it is. You know, there's no give and take.
So therefore, they don't, the old thing about working, if you've never worked for tips in your life, you've missed, a good chance to learn what works and what doesn't work, working for tips. So like, people like you, well, that's good. So you go the extra step and you help other people in general.
Absolutely.
It sounds trivial, but it's not trivial at all in terms of working for tips.
I have to acknowledge, for so many years in my life, you're looking to experience, a love that you can count on, in your life. And it was about me and just waiting for that to come my way. And it finally did recently.
Great. Congratulations. Congratulations,
Thank
Rich.
you. Thank you so much. But also what I've come to really understand is what a pleasure it is to actually love someone else and give that to somebody else. The getting is in the giving. I really am finding that firsthand. And
we don't have to be afraid. I mean, generally, I think most people are good. You have some knuckleheads. We were discussing earlier before the show started, Puerto Rico taken over by the hedge funds, and now I think they was something like $72 billion that Puerto Rico does to the hedge fund managers. The hedge fund people bought the debt at 10 cents on the dollar. So they paid the people that held the debt on Puerto Rico, I guess $7 billion or something like that. But now they want to be paid fully. It's like on the grief of other people, the people who have nothing at all, they want to further run them down into the mud. I just find that that really doesn't appeal to me in terms of making money. It's kind of like cigarette manufacturers. I don't think so. There is some stuff you will not eat, as E.E. Cummings said of Olaf. You remember that, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah. There is some stuff I will not eat. Yeah. But yeah, I like E.E. Cummings. Some great poetry and stuff like that. So what are you going to do now for the Bernie Sanders campaign, and are you going to work?
What I'm going to be doing right now is I'm going to be meeting with the head of the Democratic Party in Multnomah County, and I want to work with him and others in the Multnomah County Democratic Party to build community. I'd like to create a model for community there.
That's a great idea.
And because I've known for a long time, what turned me around on that is reading Michael Lerner's book, The Politics of Meaning, in 1995. And I began to realize just how incomplete the politics is, because it doesn't address the meaning dimension of life, and those deeper visceral needs beyond simply more money and more stuff. But anyway, I've known that, and circumstances have just led me to a place where I'd like to really work on the details of what I just mentioned in terms of getting those personal story circles going and making them work, making them effective, and getting our social activities underway, beginning to create those extended families, and then taking this community plan in tandem with our political work into the community. So the community knows that we are there, and we are really speaking to something far beyond their economic needs, far beyond their their general political understanding, but to something that again is more visceral. And I think that will be good for the Democratic Party, just in terms of recruiting, but we owe that to one another. And if we get out and we start doing that, it would be a first. It would literally be a first to add a community piece to the material side of our work. And I look forward to doing it. So we will see how that unfolds.
It'd be interesting to put it on YouTube as well, to kind of initiate the process, But you demonstrate how it works and why you're interested in it, and how, with the relationships you establish, then you create the groundwork for stronger strength within and a shared sort of responsibility. But how do you share responsibility? Yeah. Maybe Sherry can tell you about YouTube and so on.
Yes.
How to set up.
I look forward to getting with Sherry on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're going to work on that? Are you working on the Indivisibles or any of the other groups?
No, that's going to be my the focus. I have been with Justice Dems locally here, and in truth, Caleb, it was a real struggle for me. I had a group for about 4 or 5 months, and it wasn't difficult getting people to show up to a meeting. You know, it was just getting people to actually do the work, and it's just more. It's more psychologically satisfying to focus on resistance because it's immediate and you know, again, there is the urgency of now,
right.
You know, given the Trump bill more recently. But to do what we need to do, we were in the process of, with Justice Dems and brand new Congress, of nominating people, nominating progressives. I really appreciate the vetting process that they are going through, because it's not about somebody raising their hand and saying, I'm a progressive and I want to run for office, you know, support me. What they did is anyone who, all of those who were nominated, individuals who were nominated, had to demonstrate a history of fighting for progressive causes, of being consistently loyal to the average citizen, and deeply devoted to the common good. They needed a history, virtually a documented history of that, before they became part of that up to 400-person slate. We're not going to have 400 this first go-around in 2018. We're hoping for 100. And so the nominating process and doing some of the things that we needed to, people just were not willing to do that. We're not open to doing that. So, you know, I want to take some responsibility for that. But what I know is, and again, what I've suspected for many years now, is the community piece is every bit as important, if not more so, and that's where I really want to focus my time. But I plan to go to a phone bank and make calls for the this Justice Democrat brand new Congress slate, and call into those districts and talk about, you know, what these people.
So people want to do that. Where should they call to make phone call, bank phone call?
Well, that's not organized yet.
Okay. But it will come up soon.
But it will come up, and my suggestion is, again, people go to the website at justicedems.com and to Brand New Congress, and again, take a look at that site, and when the phone banking is available, they'll know exactly what to do. If we don't have anyone on our slate here in Oregon, then we will be doing the phone banking out of state.
Good.
Obviously, if we have someone here, then we'll be engaged in the campaign, and probably try to do a little phoning too. But getting as many people on that slate elected is really key.
I think it's a neat idea.
If all the things we care about actually want to come to pass.
Let me just point out, my son, I was driving my son home to his home one Sunday, and Tom Hartman says, you know, when have the Republicans done anything to help the average person? And your slate depends on, indeed, helping the average person over time, repetitively demonstrating you have a heart, you have a soul, and you know, you're a decent person. You know, our time is almost up. We've been enjoying Rich Cohen. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Progressive, and looking forward to hearing more about your combination of community and I forgot what I made a lot of notes.
And working with Justice Dems and Brand New Congress, helping that slate get elected.
That's great.
Every 2 years, relentlessly.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, Bernie Sanders and I guess Nicole, whatever the senator that he's working with too, sort of really firmly aggressive in just building up a functional army of people working on these incredibly important issues.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you.
And wishing you well.
Oh, yes. Come back.
Thank you.
It was, yeah. And then, good. Well, and what cheek did she kiss you on? Do you remember? Do you remember?
It would have been probably this one.
When you were there from Vietnam, right? Or were you there from Vietnam or no? When she
I had been back from Vietnam for a while. I think she was in concert in the 80s.
Here in Portland? No, did she kiss you?
Yeah, in Portland.
Good man.
I loved it.
What a great.
Because I so admired her, you know.
Yes.
And I wish she were still with us.
Yes. I absolutely.
Discovery, the place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm your host, Angela Wilkinson. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the awakened goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Janie Santoy has been an educator for 20 years and on a spiritual path for over 10. She believes that life's a journey that requires ongoing and continuous learning and self-improvement. She admits that she started, shifted, pivoted, all in hopes that by experimenting, she would find what she was seeking. This led her to coaching, energy healing and clearing, as well as EFT. She knew there was more, so she learned about different types of divination, got training in shamanic churning and healing, and found herself working with the Akashic Records.